Good morning, Herky. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Excited. Today's our last day.
Yes, last day of the mini series on moms and inner well-being. So I'm so happy to have been invited to come back a second time for this last day.
Yeah.
And I think today's conversation is going to be really, really important and illuminating about boundaries and self-care. So thank you to those of you who may be joining live. If you could do us a favor and put your name in the comments, that way we can make sure that you get entered into the raffle. And yesterday, the winner of the raffle was Amrita. So yay, Amrita, you're the winner. And so we'll see who wins today. And please also, oh, Jacqueline, hi, thank you for joining us. Jennifer, good morning. And
She won yesterday.
oh, and Jennifer, I don't know if you were live yesterday, but you were the winner of the raffle yesterday.
Yes, and I tried to friend her on Facebook, so if she can respond, to send her the coffee certificate.
Okay, fantastic. And for those of you who may be joining for the first time, please feel free to put any comments or questions that you have throughout this time, and I'll make sure that Herky sees them so that she can address them today. So without further ado, let's get going.
Okay, all right. So today's topic is, I'd say it's a juicy topic. A lot of women grapple with this on learning to say no, or having people pleasing, or not being able to set boundaries. And I wanted to start with a quote from, two quotes from Brene Brown that I like. One is, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others. And that speaks a lot about why we don't set boundaries. We don't want to disappoint other people in our life. Um, Also, we confuse boundaries with compassion. And I think there's some background, Julie, if you want to just clear that. Um,
Oh,
the kiddos, I think,
oh,
on
sorry.
my end. Oh, no, that's So compassionate people, she says, compassionate people ask for what they need. They say no when they need to, and when they say yes, they mean it. They're compassionate because their boundaries keep them out of resentment. So I feel like that's a good way to start. And healthy boundaries are a crucial component of self-care, because if we don't practice boundaries in our personal, professional relationships, often it leads to burnout, resentment, anger. And so it's very important to deal with it. So I wanted to start by, why we have an issue. Where do boundaries originate? Where does this habit originate from that we are unable to set boundaries? So oftentimes it begins with, poor modeling, what we've seen our parents model, especially our moms see, or it could be any, it's not definitely that, but it could play a big role in who you are emulating, in terms of setting boundaries. So I have a few questions for you, and maybe that way, if we role play and we talk about it, then it's easier to understand. And feel free to drop in any questions, anybody in the comments, or even usually.
Mhm.
So let's start with your belief. Okay, so what is your belief about boundaries, and do you think they're important? And if they're important, then why is it important? And either Julie, you could answer. You could also pretend to be another person with weak boundaries, or you could pick up from the comments. So don't take Julie personally
Sure.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting because if you had asked me this question 5 years ago, I probably would have said that intellectually, yes, I think they're important, but in an embodied way, in a day to day, and how I actually live my life, I don't think that I actually understood the importance of boundaries. And I've had a series of things happen in my life where I realized that I was pretty much running on an empty tank a lot of the time. And so that experience of seeing the impact on my family and on my work life and on my spiritual life, having that empty tank was wreaking a lot of havoc. And so I've slowly been making small changes to learn how to understand boundaries is a very healthy, positive thing. But, you mentioned about mothers as role models. My mother had a very, very hard time setting boundaries for the first part of my life. And so that was ingrained in me pretty deeply.
Yes, yes. And that's important to understand. It's very important to understand where our patterns originate from, where our thoughts or beliefs, where is it all coming from. Just to know more about ourselves and not to just sit and place blame, because everybody, every parent does the best they know at that time. So for me too, like my mom has very, very poor boundaries. And I used to have, and I'm also still a work in progress. But if I had boundaries from a 0 to 10, with 0 being lowest, if I had 3 or 4, my mom had like -5 and -6. And and in my culture, it's not uncommon, in Indian Asian culture, to women, because submission and subservience is often considered, it's a trait of a good woman. So I carried that with me, and I also carried the label of, the good girl growing up. And oftentimes, it's only when either we end up harboring a lot of hidden anger, resentment, or physically feeling exhausted, burnt out, or a realization that, it's the way it's being violated, we've had enough. We get sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Yes.
So those are some of the alert mechanisms where we feel, oh, okay, it is being violated. So when you started recognizing that your boundaries are weak, or what made you realize, was it like a physical manifestation in the body, or you just feeling? Or
I think it was a combination of things. I mean, part of it was the fact that every night when I would come home from work, I just was so exhausted, and I would often fall asleep, at 7:30 at night. And it got to a point where my husband was pretty vocal about saying, "You seem like you're really miserable. Like something's not working." And I actually, I was worried about the state of my own relationship with him, because he was trying to be supportive, but it was just like I wasn't able to be there all the time because of the exhaustion. And then also other signs were just having a short fuse with my kids. I was really, that exhaustion made me feel impatient and cranky. And, when the kids would do things that kids naturally do, I would sometimes get so irritated with them. And at some point I realized, oh my gosh, this is not the person that I want to be in the world. And so I'm thinking about things like, we're trying to get out the door to go to school, and they're trying to get their cereal, and they spill the milk. We have 4 minutes to eat, and they spill the milk all over the place. And I could see that they got to a point where they were nervous when they would spill something, because they'd be like, oh, mommy's going to get mad. And that was just literally never the person that I thought I would become. And so it was those small things, and things like, at bedtime, when they just want you to tell stories and they want you to sing to them. And I was just so tired that I didn't even want to do those things. And I know that in the future, when I look back, I'd be really feeling sad that I missed out on those very special times with my kids.
Right, right. And those are some really good points. I think it'll help moms deconstruct where they're coming from too. So you began to notice, and this is a way to know, where are you noticing? And after we notice, you evaluated how it's not serving you. And first that you noticed it, then you thought, okay, this is really not helping me or anybody in the house. And probably then you want to take some conscious measures on stating your boundaries and upping your self-care and all those things, so that you can attend to your needs, and that's how you show up.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing also,
okay.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that even after I started to have this realization, there was a whole lot of flip-flopping that went on for me, where I would kind of go back into what I call the status quo, or David would call it the false self. And I would go back and forth because I was conflicted about, how can I exist in these two different worlds, and it felt really challenging. And so I, might feel okay about setting a boundary in one moment, and then the next moment, it was like I was schizophrenic. Like I never set the boundary and never wanted to set that boundary again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hear you what you're saying. And when you initially, start doing it, there's this zone of, like you're saying, confusion where I am. There is also the feeling of, judgment, self-judgment, wherein, oh my God, all these years I've let people at work or relationship or whoever, it could be certain area, certain people, certain situations, or you could be recalling how in your childhood, you processed all this. So a lot of emotions come up. And sometimes it's hard to deal with all that's coming up. But when we do the inner work and we learn to sit with all the discomfort that comes, after we realize, and we go into self-compassion versus judgment, that's all I knew. If I recall my life, oh my God, like I said, I was very, very poor. And so my initial reaction would be, oh my God, how could I? And then sometimes it also happens that once we realize, I've had a client who has massively had, very weak boundaries, and she wanted to now rampage and literally set fire to the town, like after realizing that, how much she's been, walked over. But boundaries has to be, setting boundaries has to be a slow process in small increments, wherein, because once you start setting boundaries, whether it's professional, personal, emotional, sexual, whatever it is, when you start setting boundaries, the other person, I'll cover both areas. One is our own internal landscape, and when dealing with, people outside. So let's talk about the people outside. The people outside have been used to you a certain way, and they're not going to be, when you initially start doing this, you're going to get a lot of flashback. They're not going to be happy with the way you're behaving. And whether it's children, partner, professional, whatever it is, they're just used to you a certain way. And adapting to a new way of you might get some negative feedback, and that might set you back, as it is, it required you courage to move forward, to speak up and to do it. And now you get this, so you're like, go back into hiding and not do it, and I don't want to deal with it, and let me be nice. That is one thing. Another thing is, like, so let me ask you, what is your self-image? And I would, invite anybody now or watching later to see, how do they perceive them? What does their self-image look like? Do they see themselves as this nice person, a good mom, or what do they identify? And how do they feel when they, oftentimes we see ourselves based on how we are being perceived, right? So does Julie think I'm a good person? I hope she thinks, because I want to be able to say, and if I say no to Julie, she might get massively upset with me. And I want to be known as the good person, the nice girl, So did you feel that any of that? What was your image? And it may have shifted throughout the years, but
definitely.
At the point it was weak. Yeah, can you walk us through a little?
Sure. And also, both Stacy and Jennifer are saying that it's really challenging to set boundaries. Stacy's saying that in the Greek culture, boundaries don't even exist, it sounds like. And Jennifer's saying that there are a lot of challenges that come with setting boundaries for a child with special needs. And so if you want to add anything at some point about that, but I can say that for self-image, my journey with self-image has been long and difficult. Like the fact that I'm even willing to sit and have this conversation live on Facebook today is a testament to the growth, because I can remember when I first graduated from college, I was a volunteer coordinator for a nonprofit organization. And when they told me that I had to run a meeting with these volunteers, I just absolutely freaked out, because I was so sure that I didn't know what I was doing, and that I would say the wrong thing, and then I would make somebody mad. And for a lot of years, it was pretty exhausting to be in my skin, because I was constantly questioning myself. And like you're talking about, looking for validation on the outside. And I still do that at times. It's much better than it used to be, for sure. And I think it's pretty recently where I've had a bigger shift, where I recognize that, what people say or think or do can only affect me as much as I let it into my body. And and I'm getting better at recognizing when someone is saying something to me that's not coming from truth. And then I can just say, okay, or I can predict, how someone in my family, or, somebody that I know from my past, that I know how they're going to react. And so I can kind of be prepared to just say, okay, I'm gonna let that go, because that's not serving me right now.
Right.
Oh, and Jacqueline's saying, oh,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I would want moms to fill in the blanks of, as what is my belief as a woman I should, and then write your belief around, what you think. And then as a mom,
Mm-hmm.
I should, and let's see whatever is uncovering. I'm not putting too much into, just, fill in the blanks and see what's coming up for you. What is how do you identify your role, and how you should show up. So you're writing down what you're supposed to show up as, and you're learning to question whether it's, serving you. Um, Also identifying needs, wherein many times we don't even know, when I tell moms, can you identify, like, what are your needs? Sometimes a lot of them say, I don't even know what I need, what my needs are. I've never thought of
Yeah.
myself as me having a need. That is like foreign to them. So once we come to know, like, what is my need around in my personal life and my professional life, what are my basic needs, and they could change too. First, I should know what my needs are, and then I communicate with the other as to, how those needs, what are my needs. And when you're in a, and with your children or in a relationship, each one can state their needs. Boundaries are not always about me getting my way, but it's also about me stating very clearly what is non-negotiable for me and what is absolutely my
Yes.
need, and hopefully, listening to the other and see where you're, willing to do that. And as a parent too, main thing is between your behavior and feeling. So when an adult behaves with you a certain way, when a boss tells you you absolutely cannot do this, or comes, talks to you or puts you down, or anybody else, and a mother-in-law, or another in your relationship, it's different from how children behave. So for children, when my child is having a tantrum, I want to be able to understand he's not able to express his feelings, so he's showing through his
Mm-hmm.
behavior, right? He's
Yeah.
acting out, and I want to know first, what do I know? I go to his needs. Is he hungry? Is he tired? Is he sleepy? I see, has something gone wrong? I check his needs, right? Do I do that for myself? I don't even know what my needs are. Forget, doing that. So what are my
Right.
basic needs? So I go to that, child, and then I'm trying to figure out, okay, why is he? For older children, if they're just acting out, it's different. But I'm talking about young children, how their needs. But for grown-ups, we don't need to do the same thing, and we can understand that sometimes it's their inner child, but we're not responsible for their inner child. So when grown-ups
Right.
behave a certain way, and they tend to, trample over what my basic needs could be, then I need to not accept that behavior or even justify that behavior. A lot of women in my culture definitely are constantly justifying, oh, you know what, he was so tired, so he ended up lashing out at me. Oh, he was so this thing, and fill in the blank, and you have justification for, endless excuses for the behavior. So we want to be able to do that. I think, are you able to see me clearly? I think
Mm-hmm.
I am.
I think
So,
your screen was frozen, but now I can see you good.
okay, yours was too. Okay. Then very important to align our thought, action, and speech. And this is also a
Mm-hmm.
spiritual act in itself, wherein it's very important what is in my mind, what am I saying, and what am I doing. So even with boundary, are we, first of
Yeah.
all, what is it that I need, and then am I saying something and doing something else, or I tell somebody I'm going to, please do not do this, and then I don't follow through with it. So when there is misalignment, obviously I'm going to end up being miserable. It doesn't, it's not the path of truth, authenticity, or even, if you're trying to be spiritual, so to say, then it's not, going to serve you, right? So
Exactly. Exactly. There's a few comments coming in here. Jennifer is saying that she's had to learn the word no, especially at work. And so,
Okay.
Jennifer, if you want to add anything else, or Herky, if you want to comment on that. And then also, Stacy's saying that as a woman, she really needs space to breathe. And Annie, time. I resonate with both of those things. And
Yeah.
yes, and Jennifer saying, as a mother, I need to be more patient.
Okay. Yeah.
Are you there, Herky?
So yeah, I am. It keeps getting frozen. I hope we are able to. If not, we'll restart or something. But yeah, I can hear you now. So Jennifer, that's good. That and Stacey, I hear you. That you need space. That you're learning to say no. I will. If you can comment on how it's going when you're learning to say no. How are you feeling, and what's the kind of feedback you're getting? How is it going for you in learning to say no? And with children, like I was saying, it's a different ball game, and especially the age that the kids are. You're frozen again, but I hope you can hear me. So with like for my son, my little one, he had a habit of constantly, like when he needs me, you know how when you're talking to somebody else, your children have to call you at that time. Did I pause? No.
I am here now. It's kind of going in and out, but it says it's still live. So
it's fine. It's fine on our end.
Yeah. David says he's hearing it fine.
The tech guy said it's just fine.
The tech guy says it's fine.
Okay. All right. Let the tech guy handle it. Yeah. So my son, my little one, anytime especially last year, it was his habit. Anytime I'm talking to somebody, he'll, interrupt and wants to be heard. And he was 6 at that time. It's okay. I try to explain to him. I often use like storytelling for a younger child. And my middle son is more science-based, so I'll tell him reasoning. And my daughter, it depends on, on most days she's doing good, but some days the teenage hormones act up. Then I have to see whether I want to engage or how I want to deal with it. So you deal differently even with the age group of the child.
Sure. Yeah.
So I told him that my younger one, that look, when mom's talking, don't come, don't keep interrupting. And we had a conversation, and then he would start, literally covering my mouth and stuff. So I told him, look, whenever you want me to, I know you feel like I'm not listening to you, but do one thing. I will put my hand and you put your hand on top. That way, I have heard you. I'm going to get back to you. Just give me a minute to finish talking to this neighbor, to finish talking to this person or whatever. So
Yes.
that was a way of communicating that this is, this is my need. This is how we can go about it. This is with a child. And I know with grown-ups, it's not easy, especially, it depends, who you're dealing with. But sometimes each person would require, or each area of your life may require setting a different type of boundary. And more important than, how you set it, would change. But what are your standards for yourself? Do you think you wish to be treated? Do you deserve to be treated a certain way? This is a question that you must answer. How do I deserve to be treated?
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think that's a really important point. I've had I've had a lot of opportunities to practice this in my own life. And with my older one in particular, I got to a point where I found myself doing a lot of ranting and complaining to other people about, well, he doesn't do this and he doesn't do that and he doesn't respect me and all that. But then this point about the alignment between what your thought and your action and your speech is that I didn't internally believe that I deserved to be treated with respect, because there were some, I guess, gaps within myself around how I felt as a mother. And with me, it happened to be around the amount of time that I spent working. And then I subconsciously knew that I wasn't as present for the family as I wanted to be. So therefore, I felt unworthy as a mother. And so there was some energy that I was transmitting out to him, to help him kind of mirror back that energy of, disrespect to me.
Yeah, true. And sometimes that creeps into, I have this guilt that I am spending this much time, so I must, be a certain way. Also, we have a tendency to overcompensate. So especially when we are new to boundaries, and we just tell somebody, hey, you know what, it's no longer okay to talk to me this way, and the other person is not used to, and they're, you know, lashing back at you, and then you're like, you suddenly get scared. Oh my god, it took me so much courage. So you start to overcompensate. Oh, but I didn't mean this, you know. When I, like I said, my mom was very negative in, you know, in setting boundaries. So when I was, you know, telling her how she can start doing that, one is she needed her knee-jerk reaction of saying yes to everyone, and every demand was had, you know, required. It could not be changed overnight. So what you can do is you can have like a stopgap, a mantra in between to have from going into that reaction mode. So for her, I always said, you know, tell, anytime a person makes a demand of you, tell them, let me get back to you. It was very hard for her to use the word no. Okay, so from yes, let's come to a middle ground and create a. So then she started saying, anytime somebody asked her, instead of just saying it, she's like, oh, well, let me get back to you. That gave her time to process, to say what she had to. So it gives you a little, yes, I would really encourage people to do that, you know, women, especially if it's new. And then her other thing was, when she finally had the courage to say no, and then somebody did not react, she would go into overcompensation. So let's say, as an example, a neighbor, and she says to a neighbor, no, I can't do this for you or something. And the neighbor is like, I'm very upset. How you can you know, do this? And you've never been like this. I see a change in you. You're really changing, you know, or something like that. And now she is like, oh my God. And also her perception, now they don't see her as good anymore, you know. So then what is her overcompensation? You know what? I'm sorry. The next 3 days dinner is on me.
Right.
So we go into this mode of overcompensation. So don't do that, you know.
Yeah. Right.
Why we do it? Because it's so hard to sit with the feeling. And meditation really helps you to sit in the discomfort. Every time you do this, you're going to feel not so excited when you do it too. You know, other person, there's no guarantee how they will feel. They may overreact, underreact, whatever. But you yourself, when you're setting a boundary, it's going to be, I just said no. I'm not sure. It doesn't feel good. And because it doesn't feel good, let me go in either a numbing it mode. Let me go turn on the movie, go eat something or do, so that I don't have to deal with this. Or let me quickly fix it and overcompensate. Tell the other person, no, I didn't really mean it. I'm sorry, I didn't really mean it. I'm here for you. I'm readily available for you anytime. You know.
Right.
So it's important we learn how to go about that process. Yeah. So
yeah,
do you have
to
any
just
questions
sit with it. Well, Stacy is saying that sometimes she feels a lot of nervous energy come up when she says no to her children.
Yeah.
Can you? It's such a special relationship with your kids. That umbilical cord, man.
Right. And children know that. They so know that, you know, when mommy is nervous around saying no and when she's not. So it's a matter of desensitizing ourselves first, in terms of saying no, because we know, and I know who Stacy is, so she's obviously not going to be just saying no for the heck of it. I know there'll be a reason. And again, the age group of the child. If the child is ready, so for a teenager, when we need to say no, or an older child who definitely understands, also the personality of the child. One of my middle child is extremely defiant. So the stories and the softness really don't work with him. I need to state clearly what it is that you can't do, and if you do, then what is the follow through? And if you don't follow through, then they really don't, never going to believe you. This is the biggest mistake moms make. They say something, now they're all geared up, and now they have this, and I'm like, I'm telling you, it's not okay that blah blah blah, if whatever, and then never follow through. And they're like, I'm going to take you for a ride. They know moms can be taken for a ride.
Exactly. I mean, I'm very, very guilty of that. And for me, it comes from, it's hard to follow through with the boundaries. Sometimes it's not convenient. And the thing that you need to set the boundary about is going to derail your entire day, you know?
Right. Yes. So you make a decision in that case. Let's say so today is the day I'm giving this. I really don't want to engage into anything with my children that's going to, you know, it's hard work. Let's say it's something that I really have to set a boundary. I'm not going to pick today if today is a day that I am tired, sick, or have something important to do. This is for setting and having a conversation and really setting the boundary. This is the day that I'm willing to let go. It should not be the day when I say something and do something else. It should not be. It should be that I'm not, you know, I am call a spade, because today is not a day that I can deal with it. And I don't have to, do it every day. And it doesn't have to be done. The delivery can be very, very different based on who you are and what your connection and relationship with your children is. So I told, like, all my 3 children, my delivery is very different to them than it would be to an adult. I'm also empathic into what their needs are, but I can understand that sometimes they really think that I have no needs. And as they're growing older, I expect them to understand that I do have needs. And I'll be honest, I'm also very poor in follow through and stuff, but now I am. And typically I will not say it as, I will have a sit down talk and then discuss like what it is about, what am I talking about. Of course, not make it, for me, like I said, most of our conversations is after share and prayer, because we've set the tone and everybody's eased and relaxed. And I don't have, there is no agenda, but there is honest and open communication. So if you have a time where you can do that, I'm not going to do it in between a school day or in between my work day. I'm going to do it at a time. And like I said, so the delivery could be as per, your child best. But yes, so desensitize over, oh my God, I just said no, I feel so bad. No, then sit with that. And, and sitting with the discomfort. So even people who are new to meditation, when I used to hold meditation classes, they would, after 5-10 minutes, okay, my back hurts, I can't sit. And this happens to, all of us, where, especially if you're brand new and, you're just learning to sit. But I said that's a very good practice where you're watching the discomfort in your body, right? Can you just sit with it? I'm not talking about if you have chronic pain, you just sit with it and suffer. You're going to use your discretion. But you're just sitting in meditation, your neck hurts, your back hurts, and you're feeling sensations. Can you sit? Can you sit with your body? Same thing with your mind. You're feeling the discomfort. You communicated something which you evaluated that it was important for you. Now, can you sit with your own mind? There are billion dollar industries. You know why? Because we cannot sit with our own mind. So there are so many industries that feed me to get away from my mind. So, and you can take it slow. Sit with your discomfort for 2 minutes. Increase it to 4. Increase it to 6. But sit with it. No need to fix. No need to do. We all want tools. We want this, but the best tool can be just sit. Okay.
Right.
It'll be okay. Yeah.
And that comes after you have gotten clarity in your own self that is a boundary that needs to be set. Because one of the things I've been guilty of in the past is there's some part of me that's ambivalent about the boundary that I'm trying to set. And so again, I'm out of alignment when I'm delivering the message to my child. And so they're picking up on that and reacting accordingly.
Yes, definitely. That is very true. First, that's why the first step is alignment, identifying your need. What is it that you want? Rather than just, everything that goes wrong in my life is not because of poor boundary. It could be because of me not taking stock of what my own internal landscape is, right? So let's begin there. And what are my beliefs? Why do I fear so much? What will happen? Then there is also fear of consequences, right? Fear of rejection. What if this person doesn't love me? Very simple mathematical equation. Yes. Anytime I say yes, that equals love. I learned this from Dr. Shivali. Yes means love, and no means that I'm selfish. So reframe every time. Now you're, during the day when you end up saying yes or no, just pause and say, are you saying yes because the other person you want to be perceived a certain way, or yes makes you good and no makes you bad? Is it really true? How about when you say yes, when you don't mean it, and then inside you're, waging a battle within, harboring resentment, or, maybe it's not resentment, maybe it's just so much irritability. Is it worth it? Is it serving you? And you think that irritability will not show up at some point during the day? It will come back to bite me. Or there's a yogic story, I don't know if I remember it correctly, but like a cobra there was a cobra in a small village, and he used to bite the children all the time. And so a saint passed by and he said, why? And the children were terrified of him. And the saint said to the cobra, why are you doing this to the children? Don't bite them, and don't do that. And he's like, sure, I'm going to follow your advice. So the cobra doesn't do anything, and soon the children first, they start throwing stones at him. The cobra, he doesn't do anything. Then they feel, oh, he's not reacting. threw sticks, and then they
Mm.
when the saint visits after 2 months, he's like, "Where's the cobra?" And the cobra is nowhere to be seen, and like he's totally in such a bad shape. And he's like, "What happened to you?" He's like, "Well, as you advised me, I didn't bite, I didn't do this, and now they're hitting me, they're doing this, the children completely, they walk over me, they throw me around like a rope, they do this." And he said, "Well, I told you to not bite, but I didn't tell you not to hiss, you know. So don't so
Right.
protect, you need to protect yourself. You cannot let people bite you. You cannot let people throw stones at you, throw you around. You need to protect and speak up. How are you going to be in your body if if you're going to do this?" So
Mhm.
there's some extreme cases of I just recalled something. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Annie has a comment here. She says, I used to struggle with setting and maintaining a boundary and staying in love when doing it. If I set a boundary with my daughter and then she pushed back, I would react to her reaction. Her reaction was so uncomfortable for me. Now I try to pause, slow down, state the boundary in a quiet voice while looking in her eyes and stay on the breath and stay in love. It's an ongoing practice.
Yes, that's very well put,
Mm.
Annie. Yep. So you saw her reaction and you stayed with it. And one thing that will help you, Annie, is when you're doing this, you're helping your daughter, so that tomorrow, when the same thing happens to her, she is able to protect herself. Yeah. For me, that was a very big motivator. One time when I was sitting and I had a therapist friend tell me that, "What are you modeling for your daughter? Okay, this is what you were modeled. What are you doing for your daughter?" And I was like, "Oh my God, the tiger mom came out." No, you know.
Yeah.
So yes, yes.
And
Mhm.
go ahead. I was going to
So
invite if there are any other.
there's fear of rejection. There is conflict that like anything or anybody else. There is conformity. These are a few things. So I would invite people to figure out why. What are the reasons that they do it? And I'm going to list a few. And I invite maybe you can share, Julie, and if anybody can comment on what is this. So some of the things are fear of rejection, fear of conflict, not fear of authority because you want to conform to what you've been told to be a certain way, lack of self-worth, avoiding, lack of self-trust, self-care, self-love,
Mhm.
poor modeling, obedience, fear of being disliked, dealing with the discomfort of your own feelings, not stating your needs, extreme reaction of the other, inner child issues, and of course our own inner critic. So if I'm talking to myself as in, and I'm so dumb, I'm an idiot, or I'm whatever, and then and this is the language I'm constantly talking. I know we talk, our self talk is sometimes we're nice to ourselves and sometimes not so nice, but some of us are like, you know extremely our inner critic is extremely overactive, right? So if I am talking to myself, I'm so dumb, I'm an idiot, and another person comes and tells me the same thing, and I'll be like, oh, so basically he's just affirming what I'm thinking. Where is
Yeah.
I've set such low standards for myself. So what am I expecting the other? I'm projecting this outward.
Mhm. Mhm.
So what are the some of the reasons that you feel, or if anybody else commented, like why you don't set boundaries in your life?
Yeah. Just as a follow up to your comment with Annie, she says that she learned how to be the container for her
Mm,
daughter's big emotions.
right, right.
I resonate with that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so,
definitely.
yeah, feel free to comment.
A-
If,
And when you're the container for young children, just make sure that you have enough self-care to support you too, because
mm,
sometimes if you have two or three young children at home and you are being a container one after another, and especially for conscious moms, I can understand that they go into too much of this, they can start getting drained themselves. So I would really strongly urge you to make sure you have time periods of taking care of yourself to be that. It's not
mm,
easy being that vessel also.
yeah. Herky, can you just one more time state the question for the group right now?
Oh, so why don't you set boundaries? So I gave a couple of reasons: rejection, conflict, lack of worth, not stating needs,
Mhm.
critic, all those things, or poor modeling. What are the reasons? So
Oh, for me, there are about a million reasons why I don't. But I really do think that the self-worth question is kind of the central piece around which everything else revolves. And this is the part of this conversation that gets me really juiced up, because I can see the havoc that it has wreaked in my life personally. And now, I mean, in the past 6 months, the pandemic has been the biggest gift that I've ever received, because it forced me and my family to push the pause button. And it gave us the space to disentangle ourselves from some of the dysfunctional patterns that we had created as a family. And, you know, of course, we're sitting in a certain cultural milieu that predisposes us to have these behaviors.
Right.
But what I recognized through all of this is that I didn't think that I was worthy of being invested in, or investing in myself. And so now I have made a very conscious effort of teaching myself to invest in the areas of my life where I really want to expand. And I can see a direct relationship between that investment and the way I feel about myself today. I have a lot of stuff around money and spending money. And I think, oh, if I spend money today, then I'm not saving for tomorrow. And I go into this terrible panic mode. And so I have invested in some self-care things recently that are just paying off big time. And I can see that my whole outlook on the world has changed. And I now feel more ready to set the boundaries that I know need to be set for the well-being of my family, and think about my career in the future in a totally new, expanded way. So that part has been exciting. But boundaries are, I mean, I struggle with boundaries every single day. It's just the self-worth piece doesn't take up as much space. There's not as much mental chatter around, is it okay that I'm setting this boundary? And am I going to crumple into a ball if I tell my son no to video games one more time?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's beautiful how you're also taking care of yourself and, you know, practicing self-care, which is helping you do that. That's amazing.
It is definitely a daily practice.
Yeah. And setting boundaries is also a process, right? So it's from, you know, over the years, it gets, as we get more confident in saying what we need and saying no when we have to, it just gets better. Let's have, you know, lots of compassion for our journey from when we learn. It's a new skill we learn, right?
Yes, exactly. Let's see, Barbie has a comment here. She says, I remember as a new parent, I didn't even have any awareness about why I didn't set boundaries. It was just a constant unconscious reaction.
Yes. So the mom, thanks, Barbie. Yep. Now, you know, I'm not, she already knows, I know, but yeah, and the more you realize as a new parent, you don't. There are so many things that you just don't. And most of the time you're in autopilot mode to what was shown to you, or to what you think how you should be, you know, what is the cultural dictate of how you should show up. And many times moms also don't share like what the shadow emotions that they experience. It's not we see these beautiful baby pictures and this mom holding the baby. And so I was in a bit of a shock with my first child when I had, you know, the 10th day of no sleep, and, you know, and breastfeeding and this and being like a machine going here and there. And I was like, why didn't I read all that? You know, there are books about that, but most of the time, you know, I think we, as a community, and that's why I want to create a community wherein we have all this information for moms, especially, where now we have information on boundaries, we have information on self-care, we have the wheel, which one needs more important, about well-being, meditation. Or when we do it also as a community, and we, you know, say, hey, you know what, today was my struggle, this is how we processed it, and other people can share how they, you know, managed it too. So
Exactly. And let's see, Jacqueline has one here too. Wanting to help others, feeling obligated to do it, wanting people to view me as a good person, savior complex.
Yeah. So those are some good reflections, Jackie. Yeah, on why we are doing it. When we know why we are doing something, and then we know why we don't want to do that anymore, it becomes easier. What is our motivation to do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have, unless you have questions for me, I have, I think, yeah. So I just want to wrap it up by saying I do have a meditation, but just reframe that yes does not mean, yes equals love and no equals selfish. Just reframe that equation. Take self responsibility for your own well being, and just don't try to be the hero. Question it. Am I trying to be the hero and the savior in this job, in this relationship? Question it. Let's see our own, looking inwards too. um, we spoke about being, having that inner strength and being kind to ourselves. Delivery method can be any. And after you set a boundary too, there is no need, after you set a boundary, you've had that feelings, it doesn't mean I'm going to react to that other person a certain way, or I'm holding a grudge for them permanently for my life. No, you just stated, in fact, you're being more true. You have more space for love now, right? So because you've clearly stated what is it that you can tolerate and what is it that you cannot, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think a lot of times we discover that people actually have the capacity to accept boundaries a lot better than we expected.
Yeah.
Like I just had a little interaction. I was on a family text thread yesterday. It was about planning for Thanksgiving, and I had some anxiety come up around, because I'm a child in divorce, and so my parents have been divorced for a million years, but the thing still crops up. And anyway, so I said something on the thread that was basically acknowledging the difficulties of planning these things. And then my sister immediately called me and she goes, "Did you mean to make that comment on the thread?" And I said, "Yeah, I did it on purpose because I'm trying to teach myself to be more honest and authentic." And of course, what I got back was an acknowledgement from the people that I was on the text with, that yeah, this is a tough thing, and we slipped, and now let's come back to it. And so it was this opportunity to experience an expansion around the way we communicate with each other.
Yes, yes,
So
that's beautiful how you did it. Yeah. And I also did that same thing with the client, wherein, if I didn't, it was actually my fault because I didn't clearly express that after what time in the evening and after, during weekends, when is it not okay to just a simple little thing, which would be, you would think. And then I saw myself getting teased off over being, bothered. And all I had to do was, this is how I just need to tell you again that these are the times that I'm with my children and, I'm off. So sometimes, yeah, people do take it well and sometimes they don't. That's not why that's not why I'm setting it. I am setting it because I have gone internally and I know that this is the way to do it. And this feels right. And you will know truth always, once you are true to yourself, you will know, yes, somehow, somewhere this feels right. And I'm going to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So are we ready for some meditation?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Right. So take a few deep breaths. Just start getting ready for meditation. Turn the music, and Julie, you can tell me if the music volume is okay. So stretch if you need to, and then settle down. You can sit in a chair and cross-legged, or wherever you are. I just put this stuff away. Okay. Close your eyes.
Herky, just turn it down a little tiny bit, just so we can really hear your voice clearly. Thanks.
How is this now? Can you hear me, or is it too? Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Close your eyes. Keep your back straight. Even out your shoulders. Just relax. You can keep your hands on your lap. And as you're breathing, start noticing your breath as it moves in and out of your nostrils. You can use the music to relax yourself. Let's set an intention. It is time for me to regain my inner strength and protect my sacred spaces so I show up true and authentic to myself. With the intention of setting healthy boundaries going forward, keep noticing your breath. Slide into the moment. Let the music calm you. I want to show up authentic for myself. I want to be true to who I am. I am worthy and deserving of respect. I am learning and willing to show up to my truest self in the moment and not merge and enmesh in how the other feels. Relax. I promise to take care of myself and honor my needs. I am worthy of expressing what I need. I matter. I am aware of my personal space and I am willing to take care of myself. I understand that this is a learning process and I will be compassionate towards myself. You can feel yourself surrounded by a bubble of golden light that protects you. And how safe you feel, how loved you feel. I align my thoughts, speech, and action. I am modeling for my children how important it is to take care of yourself, your spaces, and your needs. I'm reminding myself and them that I'm worthy. When I clearly state boundaries, my inner space, my inner garden is clear and clean, does not harbor any resentment or anger. And in this freedom, I show up with so much love for myself and for others around me. Stay on your breath. Boundaries may be hard to set, but I want to honor myself and my life. I matter. It doesn't matter what kind of reaction I receive. I am willing to show up true to who I am. Because in that truth lies my freedom. When I set boundaries, I have more energy and less anger. I show up more present. My mind has less clutter, harboring, not harboring emotions of resentment. With clear mental spaces and more physical energy, boundaries are worth setting. Saying no does not make me selfish. I want to show up authentic inside and outside, and boundaries help me do that. How others perceive me is not in my hands, and I am not responsible for their feelings. I am willing to hold space and be compassionate, but I am not willing to be walked upon. I promise to honor myself because I'm worthy and deserving of respect. When you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Herky.
Thank you.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
So many nuggets throughout these past 4 days,
Yes.
and I'm sure that the energy generated through this will be something that a lot of moms can take with them going into this Thanksgiving break, because I know when the routine shifts, the energy shifts in the household. And so I hope that people who maybe aren't able to listen to this live can go back and take things away that will help them feel
Yes.
more centered as
And
they
I
go through
received
this
very good
holiday.
feedback on this. And in fact, I want to continue. I'm going to open a Facebook group for moms, for which I'll put the link. They're welcome. Where, like I said, a community is very important. So I'll be sharing some videos, some, questions that I will take. And I'll be sure to put the link for, having this ongoing support for moms. And if the 4 days have served you in some way, please feel free to comment or let me know. I'd be happy to get the feedback.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Jacqueline is saying thank you so much. Stacy says, wow. Beautiful, says Barbie. Shalini says amazing.
Thank you.
Jacqueline says yes, yes. So thank you to all of us who joined, and I hope all of you made sure that you commented here so that you can be entered into this last raffle, and we'll announce the winner.
Yes.
After the fact. So thank you very, very much, Herky. This was a wonderful experience, and I know it will serve a lot of moms out there who may be struggling.
It's a beautiful experience for me too.
Thank
Thank you. Yeah. And thanks to our tech guy too.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.